Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's me, Robert Phoenix, back once again for another rendition of 15 Minutes of Flame. I have my uh, crazy, my crazy Buckaroo bonsai hair today. So it looks like I'm doing my impression of Don King this morning, and maybe I am. It worked for him. It certainly has worked for Trump. Although Trump's iconic hairstyle has had a bit of a makeover in the past 6 or 8 months. I don't know if you've noticed that or not, but the very complicated comb over has had some perhaps follicle enhancement. What's going on, Michael Pafford? Good to see you. Double C, Craig Corporon. Michael C, what's going on, brother? There's MK. Georgios Soukalos. Georgios hair certainly were, I interviewed Georgia one time back, was that 2013, I think? He's a total asshole. I don't say that about people really often, but I could say that about him. He was a total asshole. And you could tell that he doesn't believe one whit about anything that he produces on that show. He doesn't believe one thing about ancient aliens. It's just a vehicle for him to make money. It was the only time I ever had. It was the only time I almost kicked a guest off my show was Georgios Soukalos. Total dick. Let's see, who do we have? We got the Lils, Double B, Beth Berry, Ashanti Edwards. Hello, Ashanti. Laura D, Natasha. There's Z, Misty Minor, WC Ray. Sadly, I hear the fat lady saying she's warming up. La 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 la, la la la. She's warming up. We'll talk about that today. Travis Newman. Hello, Travis. Double V. What's going on, Double V? Jennifer Rubin. Good morning, Jennifer, from the sunny Sunshine State. Leon, I will get to you today. I promise. I promise. I promise. I promise. I just, yesterday, I'll give you some insight into my day. When I finish the show, I try to get something to eat, and then I'm into at least 3 readings a day. And I have half-hour breaks between them. I try to stagger them. But yesterday, it was like after the show, by the time 4:30 rolled around, my day was done. That was it. And then I try to get in some exercise, and then I come home and I eat, and next thing I know, it's like 8 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock. So I have a backlog of people that I need to reach, and I'm working on you. Trust me, I'm working on you. Don't go away. Don't give up. Let's see. Who else do we have? Here's Danica. Danica, the Rose of Nova Scotia. Nicholas Grimm. There's Ryan. Hi, Ryan. Uncle Glenn, what's happening? Good morning. How about that text hit? The text hit? How about that text hit? The text hit? Well, I guess we've got perhaps some movement in that direction. The first thing we need to do is get rid of Greg Abbott. Greg Abbott is a dangerous man. Frank Bry from Mystery of Idaho. Oh, Frank, we've created a mystery around the mystery man known as Frank Bry. Sandy Mee, waiting down snowstorm in southeast Pennsylvania. It looks like you're going to be hit. Mary, hi, Mary. Good to see you. There's Amanda Pomander, Michelle Taylor. I did manage to get 2 miles in last night. That's good. There's Amy. Hello, Amy. Who did I miss? Crimmy's in the house. What's going on, Crimmy's? Good to see you. There's FUP, 10 Dragon. Let's see. Georgios Soukalos. Yeah, he was, I don't know. Not a fan. I had him on the same day that I had George Norrie. I had Giorgio for the first hour and George for the second hour. Georgios Soukalos is a Pisces, by the way. He's a Pisces. George Norrie, of course, a Gemini. Let's see. Emily Moyer, what's going on? Techno Brat, good to see you. Emily and I are going to be mashing tomorrow night. Got a lot to talk about. Let's see. Ralph Winter, London Calling. What's going on, Ralph? Good to see you. Mark Bethany. Mark, I'm going to post our video today. Still pretty evergreen. I'm posting the video. David, not just married, but David Olmsted in the house. David Olmsted, the what would we call David? He would be the, I don't know, doctor of transportation. Pisces are difficult. I'm a Gemini. Yes, Ursula, coming back to you again. I promise. Pisces, you get 100 Pisces together, and you would get 100 different people. 100 different people. Like there's this guy that used to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers named Hines Ward. Hines Ward is Pisces. In fact, he's born on March 8th. You would think that Pisces are in many cases pacifist and conflict avoidant. Hines Ward never met a block that he didn't like. Hines Ward was vicious. He was totally vicious. Like they actually had to change the rules of football because of Hines Ward. And Hines Ward was a receiver. He's a very good receiver. Very, very good receiver. I think he played quarterback at one of the Georgia schools. Played for the Steelers. And whenever there was an interception, Hines Ward turned into Jack Tatum. And he would just level players. And he's a Pisces. He's so many different, some very interesting athletes are born on March 8th. Jim Rice from the Boston Red Sox, March 8th, Pisces. Richie Allen, who was an interesting player. Richie Allen might have been one of the best pure hitters ever in baseball. He was also somebody who at some point in time didn't want to be called Richie anymore. So he changed his name to Dick. He thought Richie was too sophomoric or childlike. Call me Dick. And then he kind of acted like a dick. He was surly. Dick Allen was surly. But he was a hell of a hitter. Just a fantastic hitter. So, Pisces, you get 100 different Pisces, you get 100 different people. It is a complicated sign. All Pisces contains all the other signs. That's the challenge of Pisces. The chart ends in Pisces. So all the signs, all the rivers of the astrological sort of highways and byways, right? The aqueduct of astrology all flows into Pisces. That's why it's challenging to be a Pisces. It's very, very challenging to be a Pisces. And like I said, you'll just see so many different versions of Pisces. It'll blow your mind. It's the hardest sign to get a handle on. But I think in Giorgio's case, it was in Pisces, because it's ruled by Neptune, can also be very deceptive. Okay, very, very deceptive. Like, Mitch McConnell's a Pisces. We're going to talk about Mitch today. Mr. 0 degrees Pisces. There's that green light again. The green light is back. Maybe that's Judy. We forgot to say hi to Judy this morning. Hi, Judy. There's that green. Keep your eye on the green light. It is not a laser. Our little green friend is here. The Martians have arrived. Mitch McConnell's a Pisces. 0 degrees Pisces. And boy, does Mitch McConnell have some problems on his hands. And Mitch McConnell was married before he married Elaine Chao. We're going to take a look at Mitch McConnell's first wife. Sort of fits a pattern. Anyway, there is that element with Pisces that are deceptive. They are. It doesn't mean that they can't be arbiters of truth in some ways. Oliver Wendell Holmes, one of the great chief justices of the United States, was a Pisces. In fact, he was born on March 8th. Why do I know so much about March 8th? Well, that's the birthday of my son. You know who else is born on March 8th? David Wilcock. David Wilcock's born on March 8th. What does that tell you? You know who else is born on March 8th? Is that Tor Speaks. There's a lot of interesting people born on March 8th. I have to say. It's also National Women's Day, International Women's Day, which of course is a made-up socialist day. Mitch is compromised. You have no idea how much Mitch is compromised. No idea. What kind of insights do y'all have on cuss birthdays? My husband's birthday is 11/21, technically a Scorpio, but I swear he's more Sag. He probably has planets in Sag. He probably has Mercury or Venus in Sag, but he is a Scorpio. He's just at the end of Scorpio, which would be 28 degrees Scorpio. That's those weird degrees, right? We talked about before, the 27th degree, the 28th degree, which are skitsy. My insights, you're one or the other. You are one or the other. I am 29 degrees Virgo. 29 degrees Virgo. I've got 3 planets in Libra, so I have a lot of Libra energy. And I really just want to go to that Libra energy. I just want to go hang out in Libra, which is, go to great parties, eat great food, talk about, very aesthetic, philosophical, beautiful ideas. But I can't. I have to finish the Virgo lesson. And just like Steve is 29 Libra. Yeah. And when you meet Steve, you will see that 29 Libra in action. You will see it. He has some other stuff going on in his chart, but he's really he's really owned that 29th degree. He's a very balanced and very stabilizing force. And what does he do here? He mets out justice, right? Which is a very Libran tool. So much depends on other planets. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Coniferous in the house. What's going on, Coniferous? 8314, Malaysia Airlines. Lisa Donnell in the house. What's going on, Lisa? Nice to see you in chat. Of course, it'd be a Virgo that would remember that fact. 29 Sag. 29 Sag. You are desperately trying to escape the galactic center. 29 Sag. I just saw an interesting video, and I think maybe I'll talk about it either Friday or Sunday night. Apparently, we're getting closer to the galactic center. Some new findings is that Earth is kind of on the outer arm of things. So we're going to get into that. Ani, speaking of Sag in the house. Claire, yes, I'm 28, 29 Sun and Mercury in Scorpio. I'm more Sag in my older years. Well, your Sun passed through Sagittarius in the progressed chart. So you got 30 years worth of picking up on some Sagittarian life lessons, I'd say. Ralph Winter, September 28. So Ralph is definitely on the Libra side of things. Definitely. Teresa Blackburn, what's going on, Teresa? Presidential election should be void, then the military be called upon to arrest certain individuals. Yep, Lisa Marie 27 cap. We got a lot of later degrees here, which means a lot of you are very advanced. You're a very advanced group. That's what you are. You're very advanced. Sadomasochism. You know what? I sent that to Glenn. I sent that to Glenn Streeter. That was my name. Sadomasochism. It's hard to say, but you get the idea. All right, let me show you my teal light. I picked one. There's my teal light. Doesn't it look nice and tealy, right? I have a video. I haven't converted it yet, but it will show you that this shows up as like mint toothpaste green when I turn them on. I've decided to change the lights, by the way. Let's see, 29 cap Sun. You guys are all in those later degrees. I think there's you could probably make a case that the later degrees have some kind of old soul sort of vibe, right? Like you've been around, and now you want to flip the switch and complete the mission in those later degrees. You can make a sense. Now Gucci the Ghost, she's at 1 degree Sag. So she's out there exploring the vast expanses of fortune and luck. And she has an interesting story. One of these days, I'm going to get her on the show. We'll talk about her story. Let's see. There's Danny J. What's going on, brother? Good to see you. Good to see you. I'm an earlier Sag. Yes, Chris, you are an earlier Sag. And when you're at those first degrees, you're like really feeling it, right? Man, I'm into this. I'm into this sign. You just put on a new pair of clothes, like, oh, I'm into this thing. It feels good. Old school bulbs, never sold in the 70s, Robert. I'm looking for them. I'm looking for this is it right there. That's my teal. But it really looked good on the website. And it even looked, and when I opened the box, I looked like, man, this is a nice looking teal bulb. But it's kind of like, when you meet somebody online and then you meet them in person. Online, sometimes they're the good looking teal bulb. In person, mint toothpaste green. It happens. Ray and Robinette, what's going on? Good to see you. Let's see what else we got here. What else? Da, da, da. Anybody else? Wild Man. Arr! Wild Man's in house. Let's see. So you're a 29 cap sun, Ashanti. So you've had Saturn. You've had Saturn on your sun. Wow, what a life-changing moment that is, especially when you're a Capricorn. Major phase shift. Major phase shift. Now you have Jupiter. It's like all the hard work you've done. Now here comes Jupiter, bringing you the presents, bringing you the gifts, bringing you the goodies. Good job. Now you get the good stuff, right? Even if it's in Capricorn, I think that you can make a case for that. But guess what, Ashanti? You're not done. It's Pluto coming along. I got a friend here in Fredericksburg who's 29, Capricorn, and she's been going through some major transformations, doing a lot of Joe Dispenza stuff, and apparently having a lot of breakthroughs, I have to say. A lot of metaphysical breakthroughs. Who else do we have here? Z's in the house. What's going on, Z? Did I mention you before? Let's see. Natalie Remington. Hello, Natalie. Off camera, Dr. Barbara Yaffe, Associate Chief Medical Officer. I just say whatever they write down for me. Who is they? They. There's always the they. My son and I share the 20th December as a birthday. Wow, that's pretty cool, isn't it? That's pretty cool. 20th of December is a birthday. You're gonna get that super conjunction on your birthday. That's pretty cool. I did a reading yesterday for a client whose daughter was born on. This is a trip now. Okay, this is really a trip. So I do reading for super nice guy, really nice guy. He's born on the massive stellium in February of 1962. Man, the Orby things are all over the place today. They're all over the place. I just see them all over the place today. Are you guys watching this? They just keep popping in and out. So he was born on that massive Aquarian stellium. His daughter was born on the same day, and I think she was born in, I think it was 1994, when there was that other massive Aquarian stellium in 1994. I think it was 1994. Massive. So born on the same day, and it's like their planets line up in a big way. That's interesting. Wow. I can't be distracted by this phenomenon, whatever it is. I think Michael Jackson's son was born on that day. Blanket. That's got to be a light thing. It just has to be a light thing. That's got to be some kind of a light thing. I'm not going to let it distract me. Hi, Susan Keno. Pam Jerome. Hi, Pam. My 19 Gen son getting kissed by the North Node, more like smacked. Well, Gemini's dual. So, play with it. Play with the other side. Switch on, switch off, switch on, switch off, switch on, switch off. Ian Barber. Hello, Ian. Very good to see you. Love Light Energetics. My Pluto's at 29 Libra. maybe you should meet Steve. Your Pluto and his sun might change the universe. Let's see. Snake Jones, what's going on, Snake? Nice to see you. Did I miss anybody? The light bulb catfish. I know, right? I got light bulb catfished. Have you ever had that? Have you ever met somebody online? I'm sure I showed up that way. It was like, oh yeah, I expect him to be, this guy. Wow, I was a little disappointed. I'm sure I've shown up that way. But that happened to me. I remember one time. I shouldn't even talk about this. One time I met this woman, and it wasn't an online thing, but had to do the fact that she was a friend of somebody who I had a fling with in college. This is way back in the 90s. And we met up, and she was very attractive. And then we hung out at this bar, and I started to talk to her about aliens and reptiles and reptilians. I was very into that back then. And I have to say that was a major date killer. It's like, I guess if you're gonna, kind of qualify a person, you may as well bring out the big guns at the beginning, I suppose. Depends on what you want out of that transaction. That did not go well. That was one of those things where it was like, I was the green light. I was the teal light bulb. Okay, let's do the little invocation. Here we go. Dear blessed Holy Mother, Father God of the great central sun, within universal light, which is the light of Yeshua, Sananda, Emmanuel, we ask that only the highest and best information, wisdom, intelligence, and truth come through this channel at this time. And in so doing, we are blessed and graced with the qualities of patience, endurance, flexibility, humor, perspective, perception, inner penetration, the ability to see in the present, the ability to see in the past, the ability to see in the future, and to trust and understand and know what we see. We ask that we are also blessed and graced with the qualities of empathy, compassion, humor, and above all, love. If there's any karmic residue that we need to clean up, clarify, purify, cleanse, and or remove, let it be done. Okay, let's get going. A lot to talk about today. So the election drama is still on if you haven't noticed it. And there's some interesting things happening. I want to talk about this idea of reversal. So we are in what Steve Bannon would call a flexion point, meaning that there's a lot taking place right now. And usually what we've been given as sort of the stimuli from the AI is that we'd be given a narrative and a script. And that narrative and script would be given over and over and over and over and over again, so that the script becomes predictably programmable. Okay. Now that changed, and what changed was we would get that script, and then we would get a different script which would counter that script, right? So this is where Trump comes into play, the super Gemini. So this is the introduction of the counter script: truth, MAGA, fake news, disinformation. So now we have two scripts that are running simultaneously. We have the one script, which is the predictable and predictive programming and propaganda. Then we have the other script, which is the counter to that. And these are the two streams that we've been dealing with. And of course, they're polaric. There are new scripts now that are being introduced, and we're seeing the time frame and the reversals happening at a rapid rate. So we can't just say, well, this is patently false and this is patently true, or these people over here are saying, well, this is patently false and psychotic and this is the more reasonable position, right? So that model is kind of over. So what's happening now is we're being flooded. We're being flooded with all these other perspectives all simultaneously. So it's very, very difficult to kind of locate and navigate where you are in any part of the, you know, evolving narrative. So I'll give you a couple of examples that have just popped in, right? And a lot of this, in some ways, I think is kind of connected to machine learning. Like there's a machine learning model that's being um, switched on with humans. And if you don't know what machine learning is, the most basic description of machine learning that I can give you is that when they theoretically program an AI, and an AI doesn't have to be a robot, an AI can be like a program, right? And normally, what they would do in the past is they would teach the AI to perform exact functions. Like you would enter in a data set and it would learn how to perform exact functions. It was very binary. Well, it's all binary, but it was like, when this happens, this is what you're supposed to do. If something happens in that action and it doesn't fit the response, then there are at least 3 or 4 other things that you're supposed to do, or the AI is supposed to do as a result of that, right? So that's how, for a long time, the cybernetic programming was taking place. It was very functional and very task oriented, but that changed. That changed when they introduced machine learning. Some big brain somewhere along the way got the great idea of, like, well, what if we, along with having the AI learn how to do functional and perform functional scripts, what if we started to flood the AI with all this tangential information that could be related to the functional script that they're doing? So this is what machine learning is about. So now the AI is getting flooded with things that are related to what they're supposed to do, but has nothing to do with performing a specific task. So then what the AI does is it takes all these random streams of information and begins to synthesize them and use them in very unique ways. It's like the CRISPR of programming AI. And one of the more famous stories around it was when I think it was MIT, and they were using an AI to essentially perform like actuarial tasks, or it had to do with, like, I think medical billing or something like that. It was very specific towards hospital work, but it wasn't anything that had anything to do with being predictive, like with symptoms. But what the AI did is it was able to, like, take all that information and basically look at patients and model, when their expiration date was going to take place. But they didn't program it for that. And there are a number of other, like, cases where they use this machine learning, and all of a sudden the AIs are performing very complex functions in ways that they weren't actually programming or being designed to do. And it feels like we have been in sort of this machine learning program for the last, I would say, really for the last 3 to 4 years. So we're taking in all this information, too much to actually handle, if you really break it down, especially now in 24/7 news cycle. It's almost too much to handle. But it does allow for people to make kind of complex, how do I say this? Complex responses to things that might just be sort of theoretically daily engagements. So I'll give you an example. Today. I get on YouTube in the morning and I just kind of cruise through YouTube and see what I can find for maybe about 25 minutes. And there are a group of, like, Gen Z kids who are using things like the gematria and a lot of other sources to untangle what's happening in pro football games. Well, I've seen at least 3 channels now where these Gen Z kids are looking at how the game is rigged, and they're bringing in all these different influences, right? And part of it is because they're Pluto and Sag and they want to get to the truth. But it also has to do with this influx of all this information that people are being hit at. And so normally you would look, that kid might look at a game and break down a certain play or this or that. But now they're adding, like, doing their best at complex levels of interpretation and meaning. And that's just one example. And that's kind of a basic example. So now we have these new variables that have been introduced into what I would call the machine learning algorithm. And I'll give you 2 examples of what they are. Let's start with this one right here. Now, part of it also is theoretically supposed to test your credulity, your ability to stay sane, hold the line, have a center, all those things. But it is also a part, I think, of the machine learning algorithm or program. So, while Trump was president, he still is, by the way, but his response to the corona crisis was hydroxychloroquine. And do you remember the Sturm und Drang, the shit storm that the AMA had with that? With the election over, duplicitous AMA can say HCQ is safe without risking helping President Trump. Well, they also were able to activate Operation Warp Speed. So now all of a sudden the AMA is reversing its position on hydroxychloroquine. The American Medical Association has amended the recommendations regarding hydroxychloroquine, reversing the previous warning that a drug in common use for 7 decades was somehow now dangerous. This comes after the 2020 election. Of course, if they admitted the truth about HCQ before the election, it would have benefited President Trump, who's been recommending it for months. The AMA is an organization of political hacks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We know a lot of this already, right? So they reverse everything. Was it to fuck with Trump? Well, possibly. But Trump was a smart guy. He's a smart guy. He could have brought on experts or found people who were HCQ advocates. Wouldn't have been that hard. But, that ship sailed. And then it became all about Operation Warp Speed, right? But now it's being reintroduced. Oh, now HCQ is okay. See, this is, again, we're being bombarded now by the script and the counter script. And that's coming back in. It's supposed to be confusing. It's supposed to confuse you. Right? Oh, I thought it was bad. No. Oh, these people. And now you can't trust the AMA with the vaccines, theoretically, right? So this is a stratagem. It's a stratagem. It's to make you and everybody else feel like there is no center. There is no authority you can really trust. But it's also part of this machine learning piece, because what it does is, if you can get out of feeling confused, right, there are complex associations you can begin to make between all these different data points that are coming in and theoretically bombarding you. The key is to not feel like you're confused and don't know what to believe. The key is to stay fluid and work through it and process the information so that it could have a more complex or more novel relationship with your own perspective. Try to stay out of confusion and try to stay out of frustration and try to see and connect the dots with what's going on. And when you do that, it gets a bit easier. I'll give you another example of sort of this reversal that's taking place. Let me see what I have teed up here, because I found another one today. There's a lot. What was it? Yeah. So here's another one. This is interesting. Again, and the time frame and the time sequence with these things, it's really short. Like, it's happening very, very quickly. So apparently now there is media attention on, guess who? The Bidens. No, this is the Kevin Jackson network. I don't have any uh, stout data on the Kevin Jackson network, but there seems to be, he's quoting Zero Hedge and some other sources. For the better part of President Trump's first term, the media avoided the Biden family drama. See, now this is where everything is connected to Ukraine and Biden. Because once Trump sends Rudy Giuliani to Ukraine, that's when the Democrats and the left are ready to pounce. They are ready to pounce. And they quickly assembled a team of theoretical witnesses that were revved up and ready to go and testify against Trump at the impeachment process or the impeachment proceedings. And it really is that initial dive into the corruption around Ukraine and Biden and Burisma, which, by the way, it doesn't have to be illegal, right? If you're a country and you think that somebody inside of your country has broken laws, has betrayed the trust of the country, and has benefited from these financial arrangements, which they all do, it would be in your best interest, from the country's best interest, to expose that, even if that person was going to be a political foe, right? So this is what's triggered that's what triggered the impeachment process, because the left wanted to control the narrative around Biden. And then they said, okay, well, let's make him president. Let's put him in the running, because it was almost like this unilateral decision at a certain point, because he was doddering along the campaign trail. And then what state does he hit? Georgia. And that longtime Democrat who's just passed away recently, gave Biden his endorsement. And that was it, right? Once that happened, it was like, all of a sudden, Joe Biden started to win primaries. Now, if we know that Dominion has been involved in the hijacking of a presidential election, what do you think Dominion was doing during the primaries? You think Dominion was shut off during those primaries? No, of course not. People were, basically casting their votes during these primaries, right? It was like, that was what was going on. Even if it was just delegates. Flippity, floppity. We saw what happened in Nevada with the people in Nevada, the Democratic delegates in Nevada. Hey, we want Bernie. And what did the GOP in Nevada do? They basically said, fuck you. You don't care what you want. You're going to get Hillary. Right? So they can do this and move this any way they want. So it's an interesting thing that happened with Biden. And it started in Georgia. That's where it started. So now all of a sudden, the media is paying attention. And when things heat up during the campaign, the silence from the media was telling. So why the new interest in the crooked family enterprise? Worse, Zero Hedge reports the Bidens may be turning on each other. November 17, Joe Biden's brother James received a surprise call on his cell phone from Patrick Ho, Yi Jianming's lieutenant, who was arrested by the FBI and is now serving a 36-month sentence for bribery and money laundering, according to a December 22 report by the New York Times. According to James, the call was meant for Hunter. James Biden, a financier and brother of the former president, was in a hotel lobby. Blah, federal agents. They've known about this shit for a long time. So again, why did they sit on it? And why now is there renewed interest in the Bidens and what they were doing in Ukraine and primarily China? So now we're being flooded again with another script, another part of the narrative, something that seemed to be contrary to what was happening, in October and November. So is it meant to confuse you? Is it meant to put you in a space where You have no ground, no footing, no foundation. Yeah, that's part of the plan. They want to dislocate you, but there's also this machine learning piece because it's related to machine learning. It's about being flooded with all this different information. So theoretically, you begin to make more complex associations if you can stay out of the confusion. But the confusion part is important. They want you to be complete. They want you to not know which way is up. It used to be that there were these parallel things that were happening, creating polarity. Now polarity is everywhere. It's kind of omnidirectional. So those are just two things, right, that have changed. Hydroxychloroquine bad, hydroxychloroquine good. Biden's there's no there, and now all of a sudden there is a there. You've got people like what is it, Ron Johnson and Chuck Grassley. Now they're involved in the whole Biden thing. So the idea is to not get attached to it. Really, just don't get attached to it. Because if you get attached to it and you start riding that wave, it is like a whiplash. It is like a whiplash roller coaster. But if you can stay fluid and process the information in a different kind of way and make kind of more complex associations with it, then it gets interesting. It gets interesting. It's like I would say it's almost like processing an inconjunct in astrology, which is hard to do. But once you kind of intuit it and get into the deep structure of the inconjunct, then you can see like the meaning behind that quincunx. The two things that are theoretically irreconcilable. So again, you're in the holodeck, you're in the astral gym in some ways, and there's a lot going on. And the idea again is to stay fluid and allow these things to come in and process them, or don't. That's the other thing. You can just say, hey, look, this is not interesting. That's another way of dealing with it. It's not interesting to me. And you can you have a choice. But I'm just showing you sort of how the narrative now is being not just this way or that way. It's like all these different ways. But it actually there's actually, believe it or not, it comes out of a Russian strategy about sharing information, disinformation, and misinformation. So maybe I'll get into that tomorrow and pick up the thread on that, because I could probably devote a whole show to that. We have a lot to cover today. All right, so let's go to some other theoretical pertinent pieces here. I want to give a shout out, first of all, to Orange County, who is totally holding the line. Totally holding the line. This is a sheriff worth his salt. OC sheriff refuses to release 1,800 dangerous inmates, including murderers and child molesters, after judge's orders. Don Barnes, you get the star of the day. California Orange County Sheriff Don Barnes fought back after a Superior Court judge ordered the release of 1,858 dangerous inmates over concerns about COVID. That's like right out of The Stand. Do you remember The Stand when, of course, they have this terrible plague? What happens? All the inmates get released. They all get released. And all the most dangerous inmates wind up going to Las Vegas to form this dark army. And Randall Flagg is their leader, their dark leader. Randall Flagg, the Antichrist figure. Nearly 200 of the medically vulnerable inmates. Isn't that interesting? Medically vulnerable. Ordered to be released are murderers and child molesters. This is all part of an overall plan of abolishing the prison system and abolishing jails. That's part of the plan. It's not about just defunding the police. Well, let's actually not let's not adjudicate and incarcerate people. Because if you don't incarcerate people, guess what happens? Well, you have a society that theoretically is criminal free. Now, they can create a criminal act, but it's only a criminal act if they break a law, number one. Number two, if if they are charged. Number 3, if they are tried. Number 4, if they are sentenced. And number 5, if they are taken out of circulation. That is how they define what a criminal is. Well, if you look at Oregon and what Oregon is doing, Washington and Oregon, they're basically, I think it's Washington, they've taken away at least 100 basic laws that would define criminal behavior. And you can't get charged for these things. Right? So if you can't get charged, that means you can't go before a judge. If you can't go before a judge, you can't be tried, judged, sentenced, and incarcerated. That's how you get rid of this idea of being a criminal. It doesn't mean that the criminality or the criminal mind or the so-called criminal act is removed. It's just the mechanisms which allow them to judge and certify who and what a criminal is. And this is part of the plan. Nearly 200 medically vulnerable inmates ordered to be released are murderers and child molesters. In April, the anti-American ACLU sued to protect the medically vulnerable inmates at the Orange County Jail, and a radical judge sided with the ACLU. Sheriff Barnes said he would immediately be appealing the judge's order to the appellate court, calling the inmates a significant threat to the public. I have no intention of doing that, of releasing those individuals back into the community. I think they pose a serious threat, Barnes said. We've released 1,400 inmates to date since March for low-level offenders. The only inmates remaining now are serious offenders, Barnes explained. Of the medically vulnerable, 90 of them are in custody for murder or attempted murder, 94 for child molestation. Sheriff Barnes said the inmates who tested positive for COVID-19 are asymptomatic. So what they're doing is they're running the PCR tests on these inmates, and they're eventually finding that they're positive for something. And if they're positive, they're saying, well, we need to get them out of circulation and slow the spread of COVID inside the prison, which makes absolutely no sense. It makes no sense. Another contrarian data point. If you take them out of the prison and you put them in circulation, doesn't that make them more of a spreader? Can't you contain the so-called spread of COVID-19 inside those jail walls or prison walls? The answer is probably yes. But they're asymptomatic and they're just being, they're hitting false positives. And this guy knows it. He knows it. So, hey, props to you. Props to you, OC Sheriff Don Barnes. You're doing the right thing, and you're not letting these trance merchants dictate what reality looks like, at least in Orange County. Good for you. Congratulations. Orange County, man, they got it going on. Tito Ortiz is on the city council of Huntington Beach. I would love to get Tito Ortiz on the show and talk with him. Apparently, this is according to our friend David Palmer, Tito Ortiz organized a military-like response inside of Huntington Beach when Antifa came to town. And he brought in people like Chuck Liddell and a bunch of other stuff. And he organized basic citizens, turned them into, a militia, and they covered the exits and the entrances, the flashpoints of Huntington Beach, and they chased them out. That's what happens when you have an MMA guy who's on your city council. Keep the faith and hold the line. Hold the line. So, God, do I want to bring this up? I don't know. Let me think about this. It has to go into the right flow. I'll tell you what I do want to bring up is more illusion. I'm going to show you the theater of the theater of vaccinations and how a lot of these public vaccinations are just utter lies. Utter lies. Let me show you. So this comes out of Australia. Check this out. Watch this. I think it's Australia. Let me make sure. I gotta check my source here. Hold on. Let me just go back. And you're not missing anything with the audio because it's in Spanish. I just want to make sure I got the right news source. Yes. Okay. Yes. So you're not gonna. I was gonna play the audio, but you're not gonna miss anything here. Okay. Here we go. Let's do this again. Key it up. Of course, she's wearing red. The lady in red. The lady in red, they filmed The Matrix in Australia. And that's where the lady in red shows up when Neo gets a little sidetracked by, that so good looking lady in red. That was in Australia. Okay, here we go. I'm going to hit play and I'm going to blow this up and watch. This thing has a cap on it. The cap is still on this damn thing. There's supposed to be a needle coming out of this syringe. Okay, and it's a cap. There's a cap on this needle. It is ridiculous. Do they think that we wouldn't notice these things? Where is the fucking needle? Where's the needle? You got to be kidding me. It's embarrassing. You people are embarrassing. At least give her a shot of B12. Is this part of the gaslighting? It's got to be. It has just got to be part of the gaslighting. It's got to be part of the gaslighting. I didn't feel it. Of course you didn't feel it, you dingbat, because there was no needle. I didn't feel it. I didn't feel it. Oh. And by the way, she doesn't even push it in. There's no push. I didn't feel it. Of course you didn't feel it. You didn't get the shot. You did not get the shot. And there's no pushing. There's the cap, but she's also not hitting the plunger. There's your scripted reality right there. And, we've seen this before. I think even with our gal from Coventry, who theoretically doesn't even exist, I don't think she had the needle either. No pull or push. Exactly. There is no pull or push. Link, please. It's on Twitter. Let me see if I can find it. Hold on. Let me go back. Hold on. Okay, so you're just going to have to go to Twitter. I'll put the Twitter link in to the show page. It's right here. Yeah, it's just like gaslighting. They don't care. It's a Star Trek hypo sprite. Oh, right. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. It is totally bad theater. I didn't feel it. Of course you didn't feel it. Of course you didn't feel it. Bad theater. Bad theater. Now, I'll tell you somebody who's feeling it, or it could be another case of bad theater. I think this is what's going to happen. I think Joe Biden, I think they're going to hit Biden with the corruption stuff. I think that's probably still in play. And if I was going to give a percentage around it, I'd say it's around 80%. And I know that's a strong percent, but I'll show you what they're doing. They're establishing that Joe Biden's not well. I'm going to show you. Okay, website 100%fedup.com. I don't know who these people are, but all I'm really looking at is this tweet, and I'm going to play you this video. Okay, so the tweet is watching Biden's speech from tonight. He looks absolutely terrible. He looks tired and sick. He's repeatedly coughing, having to clear his throat. He was also condescending, arrogant, divisive toward conservatives. The cough that he has is very reminiscent of the cough that Hillary Clinton had when she was on the campaign trail back in 2016. Now, if you watched, if you watched Biden when he walked through that cemetery, which I think was symbolic, by the way, and walked into what looked like to be a chapel, the guy did not look well. He did not look well at all. So are they trying to establish here that Joe Biden, whoever this version of Joe Biden, is ill? Okay, watch this. Here we go. This is his recent news conference.
And once again, in America, the rule of law, more Americans voted this year than have ever voted in the history of the United States. Votes counted. President Pence received when they won in 2016. Excuse me. Or dispute the results margin 4 years ago. And yet, I thank them. And I'm convinced we can work together for the good of the nation on many subjects. That's the duty owed to the people, to our Constitution, to our history. You know, in this battle for the soul of America, democracy prevailed. We, the people, voted. Faith in our institutions held. The integrity of our elections remains intact. And now it's time to turn the page, as we've done throughout our history, to unite, to heal. As I said in this campaign, I will be president for all Americans. I'll work just as hard for those of you who didn't vote for me as I will for those who did. There's urgent work in front of us. Getting this pandemic under control and getting the nation vaccinated against this virus.
All right. Yeah. There's urgent work to do, like curing your cough. That's a lot like Hillary's cough. Clone glitch. Fakest cough ever. Yeah, it's a lot like Hillary's cough, though. You know, Hillary had that dry. Remember, she. And you remember her medical bodyguard. Remember that guy? That guy was kind of scary. Apparently, he died. That's the story. Like, her medical bodyguard died. I don't know if that's true or not. But now they're starting to establish that Biden is not well. And I think what's happening is that they are trying that I think that they're probably going to create a path for Biden to step down. I think it's about 80% on that. About 80%. And I think exhibiting he has this cough or whatever is establishing that. So I've got some Dominion related stuff, and then we're going to shift into Fish McConnell. That's my nickname for Mitch McConnell. Fish McConnell. So first of all, here's another one. Here's another jab. Let me show you another jab before I go there. This is from December 14th. I don't know where this. I'm going to play the video, and maybe we. Oh, this is Germany. This is Germany. So here's a good German who is offering up their deltoid for humanity. And again, let's show the fakery in effect. Here we go. Watch. Let the gaslighting begin. Needle. Needle, please. Where's the needle? Stop it right there. There's no needle. There's no. Let's watch it come in. Where's the needle? It must be one of those super stealthy Invisa needles that they've recently developed. Right there. Right there. Needle, please. Needle. Needle. No needle. What an effective vaccine. Wow. Here we go. And then did you see that? Did you see that? Did you see that little dissolve? It's like, okay, we're gonna go from no needle, right there. There is no needle, and we're gonna pretend like we stuck it in her deltoid. Oh, there's the face. Now it's out. We're gonna wipe it down. Now we're gonna put the Band-Aid on it. There you go. There's your complexity of machine learning, right? There you go. Just another example of the theater. Now, that's not to say that some people won't get a vaccine or a jab. They want you to see that. They want you to think that these people are getting the vaccines. Those are that's the propaganda. That is the total propaganda. So now we're getting more info on the Dominion stuff. Let me show you some of this. And then we're going to get a Fish McConnell. So here's the Dominion stuff right here. Dominion audit contains bad news. Ballot error rate was at least 85,000 times higher than the FEC allows. So they got the servers from Antrim County. They got the servers from Antrim. And this is what they found. A Michigan judge ordered the release Monday of an independent forensic audit report of the Dominion voting system machines used in Antrim County, which flipped from a win for Democrat Joe Biden to Donald Trump after a glitch was discovered and corrected. The audit, which was led by Russell Ramsland of the Dallas-based Allied Security Operations Group, also known as ASOG, revealed over a 68% ballot error rate, at least 85,000 times higher than the Federal Election Commission guidelines allow. Now, this is all after the fact. Now, this is all after, theoretically, Biden has secured the Electoral College vote. So here we go. There's more information coming out after the fact, adding to the gaslighting. Antrim County, Northern Michigan, made headlines last month after the discovery of an election day computer glitch. Ramsland report said that 15,676 individual voting events recorded on the Dominion voting systems in Antrim County. 10,667 ballots, 68.05% were errors. So if it's happening in Antrim, what else is going on in other places? Let me tell you what they did in Georgia. What they did in Georgia was even worse. It's even worse than a glitch. I'm going to show you what they did in Georgia. This will blow your mind. This will totally blow your mind. By the way, the international sports books have paid out. So if you voted, sorry, not voted, if you put a bet on Joe Biden to win the election, you got paid out. That's kind of significant in some ways. That's kind of significant. So apparently, Georgia adjudicated the vote, which is kind of mind-blowing. It's kind of mind-blowing. So what does that mean that they adjudicated the vote? Um, they basically had a process where they ruled on what they thought the vote should be. That's what happened in Georgia. Let's see if I can find the. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, this is kind of mind blowing. I'm gonna show you guys this. This is one of the things that has not really come into the discussion around the whole vote stuff, which I think is actually fairly important because it gives you a glimpse into how how the election reality, or even to some extent how reality is, theoretical reality is altered. So right here it says ignoring Georgia law, November 4th, 2022 p.m., ending November 6th, 2020. According to their PR director, the Georgia Democratic Party began the deployment of trained teams of volunteer activist operatives, ballot rescue teams to do phone banking and also travel to Georgia's counties, knocking on people's front doors, only Democrats' front doors. That's part of it. But there's more than that. Thousands of ballots in Georgia were likely adjudicated electronically without underlying support to properly cure the ballot. So essentially what they're doing is they're making a case. Georgia essentially makes a case that they can assign a value to a ballot. If there's any discrepancy in the ballot, they can assign a value to it. It doesn't even have to be an actual vote. That's what they call adjudication, and that's what took place in Fulton County. They were adjudicating the votes. They were basically saying, we think this is what the vote is. So again, that gives you some insight as to the process, right? And again, it's more after the fact, relevant information, theoretically after the smoke is cleared, after the bets have been paid off, and now Fish McConnell is welcoming Joe Biden as president of the United States. Well, there's been some interesting things coming up about Fish McConnell, and I'm going to look at the voting stuff, and I want to look at his wife, but more importantly, I want to look at his first wife. Okay. So check this out. This is coming off of Dominion. It says Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell squashed two bills intended to ensure voting security. McConnell killed a Voting Security Act that would have hammered Dominion after receiving thousands from foreign lobbyists. Right there. Bang. Let's go to the Twitter. See if we can blow this up. Brian Wild, who works with Cohen. Let me see if I'm actually getting this. Yeah, I think you guys are getting this. Okay. Where am I? Okay. So Brian Wild, who works with David Cohen and apparently Brownstein, Hyatt, Farber, and Schreck. Schreck, the lobbyist. Lobbyist David Cohen, who has worked on behalf of Dominion Voting Systems this year, donated $2,000 to McConnell during this time. Brian Wild, who works with Cohen, has also lobbied Dominion, gave McConnell $1,000. Well, that's kind of chump change, right? So here we see Wild Brian, Cohen David. Okay, that's kind of chump change. But these things begin to add up, and you could again begin to make complex relationships between Peck, Madigan, and Jones. These are all law firms and lobbyists. And this is the amount that they're able to actually donate legally donate. So at the very least, we know that from the legal donation side, Fish McConnell was getting money from people who were representing these groups. Now, if you think that, $2,000 would, sway Fish McConnell to vote a certain way, yeah, that's chump change. There's more to it, I'm sure, both in terms of the donations, where they come from, how they get to him, and also maybe who Fish McConnell is married to. So we're gonna take a little peek here at let's see, where is she? Oh, that's not that one. Let's get rid of this. I'm gonna play that later. Okay, here we go. So we're gonna take just a little glimpse here at Elaine Chao. So this is from the great Elite Deceit. Elaine Chao, look how happy he is. He's ear, grin to grin. He's Mr. Grinny, ear to ear. Like Elaine Chao, she's an attractive woman. She's attractive. He's proud of her. She was named the Secretary of Transportation, so she got a gig inside the Trump administration. And here, she's looking a little less user-friendly. That's what I'd say. She's a little less user-friendly. And this person's got a bit of an edge, I would say. And what the hell's going on with this guy? Looks like the drugs are kicking in here. Notice behind her, right? I'm not here to make assumptions, stereotypical assumptions, but it certainly looks like that she has a very strong relationship with the so-called Asian community. And you know what? I mean, why not? Why not? I mean, she is Asian for that matter. So why shouldn't she? But there seems to be more and more information that Elaine Chao is getting all kinds of kickbacks. And, she's been in a dozen interviews with her father. Now, her father apparently is a shipping magnate with extensive business interests in China. Okay. Experts said the appearances raised ethical concerns. She is the Secretary of Transportation. Her father is doing business with China, right? And not just any business, it's shipping. What is shipping? It's transportation. Federal disclosures cited the New York Times revealed a gift to Chao and her husband, Fish, from Chao's businessman, Father James, valued at between US $5 and US $25 million. They got a gift. The company her father founded, the Foremost Group, has extensive ties to the Chinese state and Chinese elites. In 2018, Chao had worked for more than 290 hours, which were labeled private during working hours on working days. So she's in the Trump administration. She's doing private work. This is the first 14 months of her tenure. The hours were equivalent to 7 weeks of vacation. Former DOT officials described this as unusual. So she's cutting deals on the side. That's what she's doing. In September 2019, the Democratic-controlled House of Representatives Committee on Oversight and Reform began an investigation into whether she used political office to benefit her family's business interests. They all do. They all do. So the CCP and China is significant. What is this? What is she signaling there? We can interpret this, since we know that they've been intimate. Eric Smallwell. She's Eric. You're no Hunter Biden. The CCP is a real deal. I mean, I don't want to downplay it. I think it's a big deal. It is the Trojan horse that has been allowed to essentially get behind the gates of the United States of America and capitalism and all that stuff, right? It's the Trojan horse. I'm just telling you, it is not the only international body or government that has gone to great lengths to influence this country. Let's just be clear about that. But it is a thing, and it is real. It is real, right? This thing is real, but it is. It cannot be denied now because we're being moved. We're really this is the putsch. They want to move us into the CCP model, and it's clear that they've been working at this for a long time, right? This is a marriage of international espionage and convenience, and he's happy, right? He's a fish. He's a fish in exotic waters. Here she's looking a little more dangerous in this picture. This picture, oh, she's happy. She's a happy lady. Let me show you Fish McConnell's first wife. I got curious. Who was this guy married to before? Maybe I can find it. Where is it? Oh, it's right up here. All right, here it goes. Oh, man. Okay. When we look at some of these political leaders, they say Chuck Schumer, for instance. We've seen what Chuck Schumer's wife looks like. Michael Bloomberg, we've seen what Michael Bloomberg's wife looks like. Bill Gates, we've seen what Mel Gates looks like, Bill's wife. Kind of an interesting pattern there. Well, I can say with certainty that Mitch McConnell's first wife fits into that category. Let me show you. Let me introduce you to Cheryl Redman. So this is Mitch's first wife right here. She's talking about the writings of Betty Friedan. Boy, oh boy. Now, I'm not here to judge the recent appearance or the past appearance of Cheryl Redman. I'm not here to do that. However, that said, she has and does fit a very interesting profile. Cheryl Redman looks pretty dude-like. And I'm not saying she is, but she certainly fits that profile, right? And she's a hardcore feminist. Hardcore feminist. So this woman was Mitch McConnell's first wife. And now look who he's rocking. Oh yeah, he's smiling. He's smiling. He's smiling with her by his side, and she seems to be by his side quite a bit. Look at him smiling. He's like, God, thank God I got out of that Cheryl Redman contract. Thank God. That's something. That's really something. I'm very happy. I'm very happy. I am very happy that I have found my Mata Hari. How could this guy not be happy? Right? This is who he is with now. And again, I'm not here to cast aspersion around a person's appearance, okay? Love triumphs all. in that, in her. Now, I'm sure there are probably younger pictures. Maybe this is what Cheryl looked like when she was young. I don't know. There's a young Cheryl. Oh, oh, look. Oh, yeah. Uh huh. Yeah. Is that young Cheryl? Is that young Fish? There's young Fish. There's young Cheryl right there. Ah, even if she is purportedly who she is, right? He got out of that. He got out of that arrangement. And every time you see him with Elaine Chao, boy, he's happy, grinning ear to ear. And I think that this is endemic. And now, of course, he's like, we got to move on. I'm going to recognize Biden. Of course, he's going to do that. And I never trust it. Again, I'm not a huge politics fan. I'm not a huge politics fan, but now we're drawn into this thing, and it feels like we have some level of accountability, to at least notice it, at the very least. And he's not alone, by the way. He is not alone with any of this stuff. There's plenty of it. Plenty of it. Let me see if there's anything breaking right now. That because I got one more thing to play you, which is not necessarily. I wouldn't call it funny. I like to leave you guys a little bit of humor, a little bit of inspiration, but it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. Okay, is there anything breaking right now? Oh, the big talk now is 10 Days of Darkness. Just saying. 10 Days of Darkness. Apparently, you should be ready for it. And what I mean by that is that apparently there's going to be power grids going off and on. Insiders are saying, just stay relaxed, stay calm, whatever that means. And that's kind of been circulating. Okay, let's see. Anything else? Anything else? Anything else? Anything else? I think we're the most up to date right now. So let me play you this. This is kind of interesting. This is Tom Cruise. I don't know if you guys have heard this, but apparently this is from the set of Mission Impossible, where Tom Cruise is desperately trying to finish a picture, and he is going to lose his mind on the set because he wants to make sure that nobody on the set breaks the COVID rules and regulations, and therefore compromise the filming and the completion of the picture. And you can tell he's talking through a mask. All right, here's Tom Cruise losing his mind.
We're making movies right now because of us. Because they believe in us and what we're doing. I'm on the phone with every studio at night. Insurance companies. Producers. And they're looking at us and using us to make their movies. We are creating thousands of jobs. I don't ever want to see it again. Ever. And if you don't do it, you're fired. And I see you do it again, you're gone. And anyone on this crew does it. That's it. And you too, and you too, and you. Don't you ever do it again. That's it. No apologies. You can tell it to the people that are losing their homes because our industry is shut down. It's not going to put food on their table or pay for their college education. That's what I sleep with every night. for the industry. So I'm sorry, I'm beyond your apologies. I have told you, and now I want it. And if you don't do it, you're out. We are not shutting this movie down. Is it understood? If I see it again, you're gone. And so are you. So you're going to cost him his job. When I see it on the set, you're gone. And you're gone. That's it. Am I clear? Do you understand what I want? Do you understand the responsibility that you have? Because I will deal with your reasoning. And if you can't be reasonable, and I can't deal with your logic, you're fired. That's it. That is it. I trust you guys to be here.
So that is Tom Cruise playing the role of an Uber Karen on the set of Mission Impossible. And apparently what happened was that there were two people on the set who were part of the production team who were apparently not social distancing and not wearing masks. And Tom Cruise is trying to get this movie done. You could hear him talking underneath the mask. And he's trying to get this movie done. And he's putting pressure on his crew to abide by the rules of, the COVID pandemic. So it's an interesting kind of position he's in, right? Because on the one hand, he's absolutely right. He's right. Like, there are lots of lives and lots of livelihoods that are attached to that production, and he's responsible because I think he's co-producer. I think it's a Wagner Cruise co-production. So I get where Tom Cruise is coming from. Right? He does not want to jeopardize the production of the movie, all the money that's been invested, right? And he's the one that is the executive producer. So, that's a very important position because they're involved in the money, getting the money of the movie together. So he has a financial stake in investment involved. He has a financial stake in investment involved with the people that are involved with the movie. But what you don't hear from Tom Cruise is the fact that you need to do it to be safe. You don't hear that coming out of his mouth. He's not saying and stressing that they have to wear the mask and practice social distancing on the set because of what could happen to them, physically, medically. That's not what he's telling them. What he's telling them is that your job depends on this. And your job is connected to my job, and my job is connected to these producers, or the studios and the insurance companies. So it's all connected to employment. That's what Tom Cruise is railing on about. It's connected to employment. Again, there's no dialogue, or there's no talk in there about safety and the well-being of people. He's talking about the well-being of the movie and the movie's ability to reach some state of completion. So this is going to be a big deal. So Tom Cruise, mask, social distancing, next it'll be vaccines. And I got a text from somebody who is a friend of the show, client, and he works for a company in the South, pretty big company, and they got the memo, and the memo said that the company has purchased enough vaccines for everybody that's part of the job, or part of their company. Oh, isn't that great? So then they don't have to go out of pocket. And I said to him, I said, well, look, you guys are pretty specialized. And if you decide not to take the vaccine, if enough of you say no, they're gonna have to back off their stance, because these are not people that can just stand by an automated checkout scanner in Walmart. Right? These are people that have fairly specialized skills, and they're not going to be able to find and train these people overnight to keep the company running. So in a situation like that, if there are enough like-minded people and they can withstand the heightened kind of level of threat that they would experience coming from management, they'll be able to make a stand. And I guarantee you that company will have to rethink whatever it is they're doing. Right. And they'll say, well, we may have to, check your temperature 6 times a day. You may have to submit to COVID tests 3 times a day. Maybe that's what they'll do. Maybe they'll make their lives so difficult that they'll beg for the needle. Maybe that's what they'll do. I don't know. Maybe they'll just come to their senses and say, you know what, these guys are not going to do it. So we're going to have to do something. But I think what will probably happen is that a lot of companies will be pressured, just like Tom Cruise is being pressured by the studios or the studio, period. But the one thing that Tom Cruise mentioned, insurance company. So insurance companies are going to pressure companies to get the vaccine and to have it distributed amongst their employees. Because insurance companies don't want to be liable for suits, right? So let's say somebody theoretically comes down with the phantom bug. They don't want that person suing that company because that company would then have to turn to their insurance company, who in turn would also be sued. And that's where the pressure will come from. So it's going to be interesting now. We're in a new kind of level of the game, and how we're going to get through this period where we are essentially saying, no, we don't consent. We don't consent. So welcome to the new paradigm, the new normal. It is interesting, to say the least, and not a place where you are without power. Just remember that. It's not a place where you're without power. That's where they want you to be. They want you to think you have no power. And it takes effort. It takes some effort. Number one, to disabuse yourself of that notion. That's number one. Break down the programming around that. Number two, to find how you can tap into a reservoir power within yourself and within other people. With other people, because we're not going to be able to do this alone. If we're going to push back, it's not one person, maybe a voice in the wilderness, a cry in the wilderness, but one person is not going to make much of a difference. We're going to need multiple people. So we got a city council meeting coming up next week, and the vaccine thing is really going to be on the agenda, and we're going to see how that thing goes, and have some ideas around that. All right, let's see what we got going on here. You guys, I want to see your comments, which means I can't really scroll down. So that means I need to go into the void. So give me 1 sec. Okay. All right, let's see what we have here. Let's see. Has Robert covered Dr. Pierre Corey? I haven't, but let's take a quick look at who Dr. Pierre Corey might be. Let's see, you guys are sharp. Let's see who he is. Okay, so he's talking about Ivermectin. Let's just throw this up here. So this is what Lindsay is referring to. This is from December 8th. Appearing as a witness Tuesday morning for the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs, which held a hearing on early outpatient treatment, a central part of the COVID-19 solution. Dr. Peter Corey, president of the Frontline COVID-19 Critical Care Alliance, called for the government to swiftly review the already expansive and still rapidly emerging medical evidence on Ivermectin. The data shows the ability of the drug Ivermectin to prevent COVID-19, to keep those with early symptoms from progressing to the hyperinflammatory phase of the disease, and to even help critically ill patients recover. Dr. Corey testified that ivermectin is effectively a miracle drug against COVID-19. He called upon the government's medical authorities, the NIH, CDC, and FDA to urgently review the latest data. So apparently this Dr. Corey has a different kind of story about how we can go about doing this or dealing with this thing. Unfortunately, these voices are buried. And the whole vaccine thing is run by big pharma. Huge amounts of money have been invested in these vaccines. And it's not just this first wave of vaccines. It's vaccine batch number 2 and vaccine batch number 3 and vaccine batch number 4. It is a schedule of vaccines that they're banking on. Ivermectin and one-time use to defeat the COVID-19 shit. They're not interested in that. They're not interested in curing something. They're interested in having recurring revenue through customers that are hooked into a system, right? So what'll probably happen is that the vaccine will make you allergic to a corona type virus. So if you get the common cold, you'll get really fucking sick. Like really sick. And then you'll have to get a shot to deal with that. And now we're into the pharmaceutical model where you take a pill for something, you have a side effect, and then you have to take another pill to deal with the side effect. And then you have a side effect of those 2 pills, so you need a third pill to deal with the side effect of those 2 pills. Right? Next thing you know, you're taking 20 pills in order to deal with the side effect of the first pill. That's the medical model. It'll be the same thing with the vaccines. Oh, now you have another thing that went wrong after you put the first vaccine. Well, that's okay. We're going to take care of that. We got a patch for that. And you take the second vaccine. Now there's a whole other thing going. Oh, we got a patch for that too. It's evolving, and we're evolving the vaccine along with it. This is how science works. This is how science works. So that's the big. See, that's the elephant in the room is the recurring customer. And they'll keep the recurring customer along for as long as they need to keep the recurring customer around. Or the recurring revenue. And we're getting to the end of the recurring revenue cycle. And that's what the Great Reset and Agenda 21 and Klaus Schwab and all these clowns are all about. Doctors and nurses are saying, yes, they are. And I tried to get something. I couldn't get it, but apparently 81,000 nurses, I think it's Norway, that said, no, that's a big number. That is a really big number. 81,000 nurses in Norway. Okay. Let's see. Dr. Paul Merrick is the Frontline Group and has protocols for Eastern Virginia Medical School. Okay, there we go. The vaccine economy, again, creating something for nothing. Yeah, absolutely. Who do you think created all those computer viruses? Norton, I'm sure. Right? Norton created the computer viruses. So you could buy the virus killer for your computer. It's the same deal. Seek prosperity for Ivermectin info. Yep. It's a virus. It will mutate. There can't be just one cure. All shots. That's how viruses work. It will be a yearly shot. It will be more than a yearly shot. It'll be more than a yearly shot. You'll get shots quarterly. You will get shots quarterly. And again, we get into the whole gray area of what is and isn't a virus. That's another part of the whole story of what is and isn't a virus. And what if you're treating something that theoretically is a virus, but it really isn't a virus at all? What if it's what if it's something else? What if it's a fungal overgrowth? And what you really might need is, an antimicrobial, right? Or an antibiotic, which is not a virus. Although I'm not really into antibiotics. But what if their definition of a virus isn't even really a virus? Early on, one of the reasons why people thought that hydroxychloroquine was so effective is because they used it to treat malaria. So then they were looking at the connections between so-called COVID-19 and malaria. And we all know Bill Gates loves malaria. That's one of his favorite sort of foundational plagues or contagions. And where has malaria been rampant? Africa. All over Africa. Where have we seen the least amount of so-called COVID-19? Africa. What do they use to treat malaria in Africa? Probably hydroxychloroquine. Right? So things aren't what they seem. Viruses aren't what they seem. And I hear you, CS, because what they do is say, well, we had this flu thing last year. So we're gonna create a flu vaccine based on last year's flu. It never fucking works because it's not last year's flu, whatever that is anyway. Right? Let's see. Anyone know of doctors who prescribe over the internet? Well, if you're a very, how shall we say this, curious person, you can find and get just about any drug on the internet, legal drug, without a doctor's prescription. You don't need a doctor for the internet. I'm just telling you. You take it into your own hands at that point. That's on you, right? You're doing self-prescription, which is, people do it all the time. I'm not feeling well, I got a headache, I'll take an aspirin. And that's a mild version of it. But if you wanted to find HCQ online, you can find it. And you don't need a doctor. But Ursula says, American Frontier doctors prescribe it. There you go. Mm-hmm. HCQ also helps cancer. Oh, that's interesting. Then we get into what cancer really is. Cancer is the accumulation of fungal overgrowth amongst many other things. Cancer is sort of this network, right? It is a network of things that contribute to your immune system being overtaxed, overamplified, and basically destroying your body. And then when that happens, then they throw in the chemotherapy and the radiation. And if whatever fungal overgrowth or whatever kind of conditions that the cancer represents doesn't kill you, there's a good chance that the chemo and the radiation will finish you off. It is really a virus. Frontline doctors will prescribe hydroxychloroquine. There you go. Right here. Green tea extract is twice as effective as hydroxy in getting zinc in the cells. So there's a lot of different things you can do. I mean, the whole idea here is to stay well, right? Just to stay well. Keep your immune system up. You guys are smart. You know what to do. You know what to do. Vitamin D, K, turmeric, zinc, liposomal C. It's not rocket science. You guys do that stuff. You keep your immune system up. You'll beat most things. And of course, that's not what they're telling anybody else. They're telling you get the shot. Of course. They never talk about preventative. Never. Ever, 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 ever. Okay. I think I'm out of here for the day. I think I'm out of here. Viruses live in our body. We're processing all kinds of free radicals and shit 24/7. And melatonin, apparently. Yes. Yes. Melatonin seems to be good for dealing with whatever the coronavirus is. I take a little melatonin every now and then. All right. I'm out of here today. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your participation. Brought up some great discussion here at the end. Be back tomorrow. And of course, there'll be more wrinkles in time and reality, as we theoretically call it. Working on a guest for Friday, and I just want to make a little announcement here. I had a real nice email exchange with John Levi, uh, and real surprised me because I love John's work. I think he's really good. And so John Levi and I are starting to exchange information, and maybe John at some point might agree to be on the show. Who knows? We'll see. But at the very least, we're in communication. And if you haven't found John's channel, check it out. It's a really great channel, and he's a fantastic guy. Has just he just oozes humanity. So that's kind of a nice thing that's sort of come through. We're connecting. These worlds are connecting, which is very interesting. We're all starting to kind of connect in a unique and novel way, and that gives me a lot of hope. All right, use your head in order to discern what's real, your heart to say what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. Have yourself a wonderful day. Chat Landy, I love you. Everybody else, I love you as well. Here we go. I'm out.